Hi, career for a program supervisor for a shelter. So my major was originally I wanted to be a social worker, um, and I changed my major to marriage and family, but what I wanted to do hasn't changed. So I would really love to run probably a shelter with kids or teenagers. I was thinking recently maybe about running a shelter for pregnant mothers, but I looked up some basic information. Active job is program management. So the organization size can vary. It really depends on who is sponsoring it, and there are a lot of churches that do small scale shelters. If I were to work somewhere in the government, it would be probably a medium sized organization that could take care of 50 to 100 people, 100 on the large size. So typical stressors would, yeah, it depends. It really depends on the community that you're serving. But for example, if um, I was to do a program for recovering addicts, then I think some stressors would be helping the people I work with to not relapse and to create better um, patterns in their lives. I think a very typical stressor that would apply to every type of shelter is just making sure that no matter what the people need, that they get what they need, and that everything's running smoothly. Um, Stressor for running a shelter for children could be making sure that kids actually find homes and working with social workers to make sure that they are doing okay and that if they're like in and out of my shelter a lot, that they're, um, being taken care of emotionally, because that can be really hard for kids especially. So moving on, typical benefits. I think it's pretty generalized. It's not awesome, but like I said, if it was a government salary, it would just be pretty average. Um, According to salary.com, I found, Social Security is an average of 2,923, disability is 344, healthcare 6,592, pension 2,407, and like time off $4,702. That's for a year. So it really depends. I wasn't able to find too much on that. Um, Again, I think it depends on who you're working for and through. And I think a lot it might be self um, benefits. So you'd have to get your own health insurance and stuff, depending on if you're working for yourself or not, obviously. So common job tasks. I'd be in charge of organizing programs, coordinating intakes and outtakes, hiring staff, applying for funding, making sure the programs were running smoothly. Um, Probably not necessarily be in charge of food, but make sure that someone was over food, hiring people to do different things and making sure that there were enough beds and enough clothing, not clothing, but all of the utilities and stuff, paying for general expenses, etc. So educational requirements. A bachelor's degree is what's required. There are a lot of majors that apply. It doesn't have to be marriage and family, but it's a good one for that. A social work major would also be kind of an obvious major to go under this category. And degrees related to marriage and family and social work. I couldn't think of any specifically, but things like that help with this field. And to be a program manager, it's about 5 years of field experience, and I think you can gain a lot of that experience while you're still in school, so that helps you get into a career when you're out of school. And the starting salary range is around 38,000. It's not awesome, but not doing it for the money. And salary range, I wasn't really able to find anything specific, but I think it would probably be around 60,000 as high as it would. Maybe if we were working for a really upscale private organization that had the funds, then they'd be able to pay that much. So for miscellaneous career information, I pretty much just found that there's a lot of different types of shelters, and there's a lot of basic information that applies to a lot of it. I think funding can be difficult unless you are run through the government, although I feel like you'd have less autonomy for what programs you run and how you do it if you're through the government. And if you weren't going through the government or like a private organization that had a lot of money, like I mentioned a minute ago, you'd have to do fundraising in other ways. And there's a lot of community projects that can be done for that. I'm glad that I had this opportunity to look more at this career. I hadn't really researched it, even though I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do. So looking forward to doing more research and finding out more. And I hope you all have a great week.